What's up, everybody? It's Mike here from The Art of Guitar, here for another lesson. We've done 3 lessons this week so far. This is crazy. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a way of kind of faking your way through a solo. If this situation ever comes up for you, which, by the way, it used to happen to me a lot when I was starting out. I'd play with bands, or they would just need a guitar player to sit in for the night, and they would surprise me and they'd want me to solo over certain parts of the song that I wasn't ready for. And whether I didn't know the chords they were playing at the time, or they just decided to change the key at the last minute, I found myself stumbling a little bit. And so I developed this technique to kind of get me out of a situation, and it allowed me to eventually play with confidence over pretty much any situation. Even if you don't know any theory, you could use this technique. And then you'll see the second phase that we do will involve a little bit of theory. But either way, you'll have a good enough ear to get you through pretty much any situation. This is assuming that the band is playing in one key for the solo. If they're modulating to a bunch of different keys, that could be a little bit on another level, but this is where 90% of the bands usually stay in one key, so we're going to study with that. So what I did, just to kind of test myself, was to have my student record a chord progression, a random chord progression before I left, and we recorded it into my looper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit play, and then I'm going to show you the steps I take in faking my way through a solo at first. So my first tip is to start on just one string, play with a note, just sort of find a note, just maybe guessing, and turn it down so it's not super loud yet. If it sounds decent, go ahead and bring it all the way up, and then we start to move around a little bit. And this is where it gets interesting, okay? So I'm just gonna do those few steps in the beginning, and then I'm just gonna kind of go off a little bit, find my way around that string, sticking with one string at first, and then I'll tell you more of what I'm doing as I get done with it, okay? Here we go. So what I did was I started really quiet. I always choose the third string. It just seems to be a good middle string to play this stuff on, to experiment on, I should say. And I turned it up a little bit, and I could tell it was actually decent sounding, but not the ideal note maybe to start on. And then I just sort of played around until I found my way around the rest of the frets, staying on that one string the whole time. So here's what I did from my memory here. I hit the 8th fret, and it sounded okay. Then I could just tell by experience, but just by the way my ear perceives things, I could sort of tell that the very next fret could sound good. Now, if it didn't, one thing that I learned that was really important was you're always 1/2 step, like 1 fret, away from a decent sounding note. And I like to add to that and say you're also 1 bend away from a decent note. So if you're not hitting a good note, you could slide to the next fret or the next 2 frets, because one of those is going to sound decent. And then if you're not quite there, and you want to stay on the same fret, you can also bend your way into a good note. So another way of kind of faking your way at first. All right, so I found that the next fret was decent. And then from there I had some confidence because I felt like, okay, that sounds really good. I'm going to go up to the next whole step. Here's why I had confidence, because after you do a half step, it's very, very rare that another half step's going to actually sound really good because of the way the diatonic scale is made. But now I don't want to do a lot of theory right now at level 1, so I'm going to leave that there and pick it up later. But just know that if you've already done a half step, the next thing you're going to do is going to be a whole step, okay? Then from there, it's anyone's guess depending on where you are, okay? So now if I do another whole step, okay, that sounded good at the time. Then I walked my way back to the frets that I knew were good. So in my head, I thought the 8th fret, the 9th fret, the 11th fret, the 13th fret, they all sounded pretty good. The other ones, I think of like red light frets. Stay away from those at this point. But the green light frets, I already have mapped out. 8, 9, 11, 13. Now, just with those 4 frets, you can make, if it's just like a 15-second solo, you're fine. Check it out. So you just play around that a little bit, get a good sound. And now we're going to start going down because I want to use the rest of the string, the rest of the neck. And let's see if we hit any landmines here. Ready? Did you hear that? So the 5th fret was not good. So I brought it down, and luckily the 4th fret was good. And so that's a really cool way to navigate past a bad note, if you will. Some people say there are no bad notes, but you know what I mean. We're trying to find the scale that works best in this situation. And then we could work our way all the way down to the bottom here, the top. Let's check this out. Okay, that first fret actually sounds pretty good. Now you just have to remember which frets were good. Another thing to remember is because the first fret sounded good, that means the 13th fret's going to sound good. Once you hit that octave point, then the octaves will tell you, hey, you can go there now too. So remember, the first fret is the same as the 13th fret on that same string. So that just green lights all these now because you've already hit these down here. Another quick way to just get the entire neck down on one string. Okay, so there was a little bit of trial and error, and yeah, you're going to make some mistakes, but the better you get, the quicker you can work your way out of those. And eventually you sound like you know what you're doing right away, even on a random progression like that. So people ask, what's level 2? Well, real quick, we'll just touch on level 2 today, and then we'll do levels 3 and 4 maybe on the website where it comes to modes and really locking onto every chord that happens. What I want to do is I want to find the center tone. This takes a little bit of ear training now of the progression. Let's see what happens if I just play it. Okay, so E major is what I would break all these chords down to, okay? Some people might say, well, it sounds like it's starting on a minor chord. I believe it's... Yeah, my student loves minor 7 chords. So he's starting on F sharp minor 7. But we're gonna make that the 2 chord. The next chord, I believe he's doing B, then the home chord hits. So just because of experience and knowing some music theory, I know what the center chord is in this situation, and it's E. Now, if you don't know music theory and how I got to that, I'll try to explain that on the website. So it's pretty in-depth, so I don't want to go into it now, but I was able to hear the center tone of all of that chaos, and it was just E. And from there, I experimented by doing a major scale. If you know your whole steps and half steps in a major scale, whole, half, whole, half, and it sounded good, telling me that E major at least works inside of that. Let's check it out again. See, if I messed up one of those notes, you can kind of hear it doesn't sound right. So because I know E major now, so it sort of greenlights a big part of the neck for me because I've played E major a lot. So now I can start to cross strings because of my theory knowledge and the knowledge of the neck. So instead of staying on one string and sort of hunting and pecking, now a bunch of green lights light up for me across the neck. So watch how this can evolve now. So all bets are off once you know where you're at and you're like, okay, this is E major tonality, go. And then you could just totally cover the neck if you know your stuff. So that's a good feeling, but I wanted to let you know, even if you don't know any music theory, and you could just tell when something sounds like it works or it doesn't, you can use one string and actually fake your way through a solo pretty well. But like I said before, you're only faking at first. And then once you learn a few things, you don't really call it faking anymore. You just call it adjusting on the fly. All right, I hope that helps you guys out, and let me know if you have any questions about that, and we'll do more of that kind of stuff in the future. And like I said, we'll do the higher levels on the website, but I want to get you guys started on that today on a very basic level. Okay.